Today is February 3rd, 2025. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life. This is Pro-Life Week. Only one thing on the program today. It might have been today, it might have been over the weekend, I'm not sure. But Missouri Congressman Eric Burlinson introduced the Life of Conception Act to affirm the fundamental right to life for every human being, born and unborn. This landmark legislation declares that unborn children are persons under the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, allowing the right to life to be legally recognized and protected. Now, I'm quoting from the congressman. Every life is a sacred gift from God, deserving of dignity and protection from the moment of conception. The Life at Conception Act uses Congress's constitutional authority to define personhood, fulfilling our moral and legal obligation to safeguard the lives of the unborn, unquote. Now, I'm going to quote from the 14th Amendment because this Life of Conception Act is very much linked with the 14th Amendment. Okay. Quote, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law," unquote. The Life of Conception Act ensures this promise applies to the unborn, recognizing them as persons with equal protection under the law. So let's go back to that paragraph where I'm citing the 14th Amendment. You know, it's divided into two sections. First, it talks about no state can make or enforce a law that abridges the privileges of citizens of the U.S., semicolon, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I focused in on this punctuation mark, the semicolon. It's not a colon. It's a semicolon. So what's a semicolon? It connects two separate or independent sentences or thoughts, but puts them in a sentence. But you could just as easily take and make them into two different sentences. So the semicolon means that the second portion of the 14th Amendment talks about personhood. Nor shall any state deprive any person, not citizen, but person, of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, so I have a book that I picked up in the late 1980s. So it's been around a while. It's a great book, The Abortion and the Constitution, written by a bunch of law professors and scholars that know a whole lot more than I do about constitutional law. And it's edited, so there must be like 15 different articles in this book talking about ways to overturn Roe v. Wade by using the Constitution. Okay, and they talk in here about the history of the 14th Amendment. The author's name was John Bingham. He was a congressman from Ohio. He was a Republican. He was very prominent. He was he was one of the prosecutors in the trial that convicted the conspirators in the Abraham Lincoln assassination, because there were several other people who were injured. They weren't killed, but they were injured. And then in 1866, he was also involved in the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. So he was a real prominent Republican, very anti-slavery, very pro-abolition. And so he writes the 14th Amendment to make sure that former black slaves were not going to be considered citizens of the U.S., and that no one could deprive them of their status as a person without due process. Okay, so I'm going to look at three different sections of some different articles that talk about the 14th Amendment and this John Bingham, the author of the 14th Amendment. Okay. Bingham said during the congressional debates, quote, "A state has not the right to deny equal protection to every human being, period," unquote. Okay. Human being, he says here. Second section here. Let's see if I can find it here. Sorry. The context of the 14th Amendment is clear. Congressman John Bingham, who was the amendment's chief sponsor in the House, said that his measure was intended to be universal in its application, extending its scope to include, quote, "any human being," unquote. Senator Jacob Howard, the main sponsor, the Senate sponsor from Michigan, Senator Howard from Michigan, emphasized that the constitutional language would be applied to even the, quote, "humblest, the poorest, the most despised of the human race," unquote. Okay. In the last section here, let's see if I can find this. Representative Bingham, author and primary sponsor, spoke of the rights guaranteed by the amendment as applying to every human being. Senator Howard of Michigan, the amendment's Senate sponsor, said its provisions would protect the rights of, quote, "common humanity," unquote. Thus, it is to be said that these leading framers of the 14th Amendment intended for the word person to mean human being. Okay, well, this is not, rocket science. Obviously, if the mother is human and the father is human, the offspring is human. So from the moment of conception, from the onset of fertilization, the child in the womb is human. And obviously it's growing, it's alive because because it's growing. Okay, so it's alive and it's human. But from what I read from the authors of the 14th Amendment, common humanity, every human being, they were to be included in this concept of personhood, or a person that was protected by the U.S. Constitution, or their rights could not be denied without due process of law. So we'll see how this Life at Conception Act progresses. I think it probably will pass. I have to be realistic. It will probably pass in the House because all you need is a simple majority. It will not pass in the Senate because even if every Republican votes for it, there's 53. You need 60 votes to block or end a filibuster. And I'm almost guaranteed that the Democrats who hated the filibuster back when Joe Biden was president because they wanted to see his legislation passed without Republicans blocking it by a filibuster. So they wanted to get rid of it. Well, darn well, the Democrats will filibuster this bill because they love abortion. And that's a strong statement to make, but they just are obsessed with reproductive rights. And they will filibuster this bill. So it probably, there are miracles. Miracles can happen. I believe in miracles. And it's possible there may be some Democrats that will perhaps oppose the bill, but not support the filibuster. And it's possible that if that happened, the bill could pass. And I'm not sure even where Donald Trump stands on that kind of piece of legislation. But it's still it's an encouraging sign. It shows the Republicans in the Congress are willing to put some muscle and some teeth into some pro-left legislation. And with that, I'll let you go, and I'll see you next time.